Assalamu alaikum. This is Ali Habib welcoming you to the third edition of the HBL podcast, HBL Inspire. Today's topic is how banks are shaping for the clients of the future. ख़वातीन हज़रात, ये टेक्नोलॉजी का दौर है और मेरे ख़्याल में टेक्नोलॉजी ने अगर तीन एवेन्यूज़ को मुतासर सबसे ज़्यादा किया है तो वो है रिटेल, एजुकेशन और फाइनेंशियल सर्विसेज। आज इसी फाइनेंशियल सर्विसेज के हवाले से हमने अपने पॉडकास्ट में अबरार मीर साहब को इनवाइट किया है। अबरार इज़ द चीफ इंफॉर्मेशन एंड ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन ऑफिसर फॉर HBL. Abrar brings 30 years of experience to the table. He has held multiple positions in the bank and throughout his career that involves precisely the confluence of technology and banking. So with this, we are going to now turn towards Abrar and have a discussion where he would help us on our topic, how banks are shaping themselves up for the client of the future. Assalamu alaikum, Abrar.
Assalamualaikum.
अबरार, जब भी क्लाइंट ऑफ द फ्यूचर की बात होती है और जब भी फ्यूचर की बात होती है तो हमेशा एक लफ्ज़ आता है डिजिटल। ये what is this digital? Is it about digitalization? Is it about automation? Is it about 24/7 banking? It's every time that I speak to someone, I get a different perspective on digital. How would you define that?
Thank you, Ali. I think it's a very interesting question. And like you said, digital is the word in itself has become so kind of confusing because different people look at it, interpret it, and have a different perspective of it. So if I was to share my perspective, I think digital is the things that you refer to, the 24/7 or digital, those are just the end results of some activity at a certain point in time. But for me, when I look at what is digital, especially in the context of our clients as well, it's about a mindset, it's about a lifestyle choice, it's about a behavior. And when I say it's about lifestyle choice, it's about behavior, what I mean is that a digital means that you want freedom, you want independence, you want flexibility, you want things instantly available and accessible to you without you being required to be bound by certain working hours of an institution or whatever. So I think that's what I define digital, or that's at least the thought that comes to my mind when I hear the word with digital, that it's all about those people who are looking for flexibility, freedom, agility, high adaptability, high mobility.
When you define, thank you for that, but that automatically leads me into something that I think you're alluding to, because I'll pick up your statement that digital is about lifestyle and what defines that lifestyle. So this particular lifestyle that you define about mobility, agility, I'll try to connect that to the topic of our podcast, client of the future. Then keeping these elements in mind, who is your client of the future?
Again, when we think of client of the future, I generally try not to kind of box them into the typical way we look at the client to say, is it ये youth है, ये middle age है, ये क्या कर रहा है, ये दुकानदार है, ये salaried है, ये business. I think वो persona types हैं. Those are as relevant as they are today, and they will remain equally relevant 10 years, 15, 20, 30 years from now. Because 30 years from now as well, you will have youth. 30 years from now as well, you will have people in their middle ages. 30 years from now, you will also
have senior more citizens. Of the youth, right?
Well, जो आज का youth है, ये आज से 15 साल बाद मिडिल एज में चला जाएगा. जो आज का मिडिल एज है वो 15 साल बाद सीनियर सिटीजन बन रहा होगा. सो आई थिंक इट्स दैट पॉपुलेशन जो आज वो तो एक नेचुरल साइकिल है, चलता रहेगा. सो ये प्रोफाइल ऑफ अ कस्टमर विल ऑलवेज बी देयर. उनके प्रोफेशंस विल ऑलवेज बी देयर. So when I think of a client of a future, I again like to think in terms of their behavior, in terms of their needs. And a lot of that behavior and the needs will be shaped by the technology evolution that we're seeing all around us. Because that technology evolution is going to create lots of new business models, is also going to create a lot of change in the way we do things. So अगर आज से 10 साल पहले एक नॉर्मल एक्सपेक्टेशन एक बैंकिंग कस्टमर की ये थी कि वो सुबह 9 बजे का ब्रांच खुलेगी और वो ब्रांच में जाएगा, और उसको पता था कि 5 बजे से पहले ब्रांच बंद हो जाएगी, सैटरडे और संडे को ब्रांच काम नहीं करेगी, ईद पे, शब बारात पे, मुहर्रम छुट्टियों पे ब्रांचेस काम नहीं करेंगी. ये उसकी एक एक्सपेक्टेशन थी. वो उसके इर्द गिर्द अपनी ज़िंदगी को अडेप्ट करता था. हाउएवर टेक्नोलॉजी ने तरक्की की, मोबाइल ऐप और मोबाइल के ज़रिए 24/7 एक्सेसिबिलिटी आ गई. जैसे जैसे वो उसके हाथ में चीज़ें आती गई, उसको दूसरे बिजनेस मॉडल नज़र आए, उसकी एक्सपेक्टेशन फ्रॉम द बैंकिंग इंडस्ट्री भी बदलती गई. ये हो गई कि जी अब मुझे मोबाइल पे, मुझे रात को 2 बजे बिल पे करने का ख्याल आया तो मुझे कर सकते होना चाहिए. मुझे अगर सुबह 4 बजे किसी को पैसे भिजवाने का ख्याल आया, मुझे पैसे भिजवा सकते होने चाहिए. मुझे रात को 10 बजे पैसे निकालने की ज़रूरत पड़ी है, मुझे पैसे निकालने की एबिलिटी होनी चाहिए. सो ये उसका क्लाइंट का एक बिहेवियर चेंज हुआ. सिमिलरली आई थिंक आज से 10 साल 15 साल बाद जब आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, रोबोटिक्स, ऑटोमेशन, मोर डेटा इनेबल्ड डिसीजन मेकिंग, जैसे ये चीज़ें परवेसिव होती जाएंगी, कॉमन होती जाएंगी, ये हमारी बैंकिंग इंडस्ट्री के अलावा बाकी इंडस्ट्रीज के भी पूरे बिजनेस मॉडल्स को शेप करेंगी, रीडिफाइन करेंगी. हमारे क्लाइंट का बिहेवियर, उसकी एक्सपेक्टेशन.
दिस ऑलरेडी हो गया, ई कॉमर्स में हो चुका है, ई कॉमर्स में हो गया, रिटेल में आ गया,
एब्सोल्यूट.
एजुकेशन में आ गया है ना. यू हैड दिस एंड आई थिंक वो कोविड में इस चीज़ को और एक्सपेडाइट भी कर दिया है. आपने इंटरेस्टिंग बात की कि टेक्नोलॉजी इवॉल्व कर रही है, लोगों की नीड्स इवॉल्व कर रही हैं. कई जगह लोगों को अपनी नीड्स का पता नहीं है, लेकिन टेक्नोलॉजी की वजह से सडनली वो उनको एक अपॉर्चुनिटी नज़र आती है. अगर अगर आई डोंट वांट टू लुक इनटू द क्रिस्टल बॉल एंड लुक decades from now. I don't want to go into a Star Trek mentality, but in the medium term, how do you see this impacting the banking business model जो कि अभी भी brick and mortar पे है? क्या आज से चले 5 साल का कर्सा ले लेते हैं, मैं आप इसको रेडिकली बदलते हुए देख रहे हैं इस बिजनेस मॉडल को, या इवॉल्व होता हुआ देख रहे हैं? हाउ डू यू सी दिस?
आई थिंक 10 से 15 साल तक के अरसे के दौरान में तो एटलीस्ट मेरा नहीं ख्याल कि फिजिकल ब्रिक एंड मॉर्टर की नीड खत्म हो जाएगी. हाँ, उस ब्रिक एंड मॉर्टर का रोल बदल जाएगा.
ओके.
जो आज भी हम ज़रा ज़्यादा एडवांस मार्केट्स में अगर जाते हैं तो हम देखते हैं कि बहुत बड़ी बड़ी ब्रांच है लेकिन खाली पड़ी है. क्यों? कि वहाँ पे सिर्फ वो कस्टमर आ रहा है जिसको ज़रा को कॉम्प्लेक्स एडवाइजरी नीड है, जिसको ज़रा ज़्यादा कॉम्प्लेक्स प्रोडक्ट चाहिए, जहाँ पे वो किसी के साथ वन ऑन वन कन्वर्सेशन करने में ज़्यादा कंफर्टेबल फील करता है. सो एडवाइजरी सेंटर्स के तौर पे उनका रोल ज़्यादा इवॉल्व हो रहा है. आज भी अगर हम अपनी बैंक ब्रांचेस को देखें तो एक मेजर पार्ट ऑफ द ट्रांजैक्शंस आर कैश जमा कराना
Yes,
या
indeed.
कैश निकालना. तो जैसे जैसे कैश का हमारी जिंदगियों में अमल दखल कम होता चला जाएगा, वैसे वैसे ब्रांच की नीड फॉर कैश रिलेटेड ट्रांजैक्शंस तो कम होती जाएगी. उसके बाद आ जाएगी एडवाइजरी की नीड. वो आई थिंक अभी कुछ अर्सा रहेगी, 5 साल 10 साल 15 साल. वो एडवाइजरी की नोयत बदल जाती है. शायद हम कल को नई प्रोडक्ट टाइप्स क्रिएट कर सकें, नई सर्विसेज क्रिएट कर सकें जिनके लिए मज़ीद एडवाइजरी की सर्विसेज की नीड रहे, तो मे भी ये मज़ीद लंबे अरसे तक रेलेवेंट रहें. लेकिन आई थिंक इंक्रीजिंगली Branch, in terms of the way the branch provides services today, वो वाला business model certainly I don't see that being relevant anymore 10 years from now.
ओके,
ये वाली सर्विसेज का स्वीट और मेन्यू ये सर्टेनली बदल
तो
जाएगी.
ब्रांच रहेगी, आज से 10 साल की बात हम कर रहे हैं, लेकिन उसमें क्या किस नौइयत का काम हो रहा होगा वो बदल जाएगा. जो बेसिक आपकी ट्रांजैक्शन है, पैसे जमा कराना, लेना, ये रिमोट या पेमेंट्स करना, ये रिमोटली हो जाएंगी. मोर कॉम्प्लेक्स चीज़ें बीच में आ सकती हैं. कैशलेस, आपकी इस सवाल में मुझे एक चीज़ सडनली स्ट्राइक की है, कैशलेस. और दुनिया के कुछ ममालिक ऐसे हैं जहाँ पे मामला जैसे चाइना का सुनने में है कि भाई चाइना में बहुत हद तक ये मामला कैशलेस जा चुका है. क्यूआर कोड पे मामला चला गया है, मोबाइल फ़ोन से ट्रांजैक्शंस हो रहे हैं, एंड सो ऑन सो फोर्थ. मुख्तलिफ पाकिस्तान में द क्लाइंट the client of the future for banks, would he or she be as cashless, or would you do you see as, let's say, a China's of the world, or would you see various subsets in Pakistan? There will be a subset in Pakistan that will still say, I want to see my cash, and there will be a subset of Pakistan which will be as financially tech driven as any other country in the world. So how do you see the clients of the future? Are there segments, or is there a monolith coming up in the next 5 to 10 years in Pakistan?
Again, I mean, I wish I had an exact answer. I would certainly be in a different profession today, and I would be making a lot of money over there if I could exactly predict.
Yeah.
But if I was to dare to imagine, before I do that, I think let's just look at what has happened in Pakistan in the last 10 years. So if you go back in 2012, 2013 in Pakistan, smartphones were just starting to come into the country.
Yeah.
The banks were still, some of those, not all, most of the banks were still not even there, but some of those were offering internet banking. One or two banks had started to roll out mobile apps. And a lot of the banks, the conversation still was who would use a mobile app for banking?
Yeah.
So, mobile app is not going to drive a customer preference for a bank. These were conversations 10 years ago. Fast forward 2018, 2019, things started to change. COVID happened, that has completely changed the perspective. Now, for a lot of banks, the conversation on the social media, the conversation in the boardrooms, it's all about the user experience on the app and how come the app was not available for 5 minutes in a day. That caused so much of an inconvenience to the customer because the customers have become so used to it. Now, this is not just a given expectation, it's not something that you go and present as a value proposition, it's just a hygiene factor. Similarly, I think you move 5, 10 years from now onward. We know State Bank is now pushing very aggressively on the RAST QR. I think if we are able to execute that correctly and successfully, that could be a single major transformative effort that we collectively put in. And if we are able to scale it the way the expectation is, we should be pretty similar to what you just talked about is happening in China. But having said that, I still would shy away from going out and saying we will become a complete cashless society in the next 10 years. I don't think so. Yes, unless the digital currency becomes a standard, unless the digital currency becomes a norm, then by default you are saying the cash is going to disappear because cash as a currency will not be present. But till that happens, I think through this phenomenon of digital payment acceptance at the retail store, enabling the customers to pay using feature phones, etc., or hopefully in 10 years from now, almost everyone will have access to data. We should see a significantly large increase in society becoming more and more cashless, but I don't think so. It will be fully cashless even 10 years from now.
So I think the if I were to sort of encapsulate what you said, I think the evolution has accelerated. That doesn't mean that we have reached to the end, but the evolution has so what we saw 10 years ago, we would not have been able to predict now. But now we at least have I get it. So it's now that was, I think, a very comprehensive overview that you have given us into our audience about the meta trends that are taking place in banking, and especially in terms of how the customers of the future are shaping up. Being a little more closer to home, more real, more today, more now. What are banks doing in Pakistan to shaping themselves up for this client of the future, this client who has a certain lifestyle need? क्या कर रहे हैं बैंक आजकल पाकिस्तान में? मैं ये बात नहीं कर रहा कि ऐप आ गई है। ऐप तो अब एक एक इट्स अ हाइजीन फैक्टर। ऐप तो होना अब आपके लिए एक हाइजीन फैक्टर तो होगी। तो उसके आगे क्या हो रहा है, या चाहे वो डेवलपमेंट फेज में हो या चाहे रोल आउट में हो? जस्ट प्लीज शेड सम लाइट ऑन दैट।
आई थिंक क्रॉस द इंडस्ट्री तो शायद कहना मुश्किल हो, क्योंकि हर बैंक एक डिफरेंट स्टेज ऑफ एवोल्यूशन पे है। हर इंस्टीट्यूशन का अपना एक वर्ल्ड व्यू है, उनका अपना एक थॉट प्रोसेस है, उनका अपना एक नज़रिया हो सकता है कि किस तरह मार्केट, कस्टमर, बिजनेस मॉडल इवॉल्व करेंगे। लेकिन आई कैन टॉक अ लिटिल बिट अबाउट व्हाट वी आर डूइंग एट HBL. And whatever we are doing at HBL is again shaped by our belief of the customer of the future. As I started out by saying that this is what we believe the client of the future will look like. And what do we mean by a digital client of the future? So, with that context in mind, for us, the increasing focus is on significantly enhancing our ability to harness, process, and capitalize on the data that we have. So that's one major area of focus and concentration, enhancement, improvement, refinement, investment for us. The second major element is automation of our processes, either by bringing in more technology solutions or bringing in more robotics and digitization through the robotic process automation. And the third element remains making sure we have the right kind of talent available in the organization that can use these tools and that can understand these tools and then can combine the power of the data, the robotics, the automation, the AI tools, etc., to go out and continue to create value for the clients, to continue to make sure that whatever we are doing, we continue to be relevant for our clients as their needs, their thought processes, their expectation, as those evolve, we also continue to evolve with that and we continue to remain relevant with them. I mean, as one of the conversations that we have internally is how do we go out and do things, leave legacy in a manner that while we have inherited a bank that has been around for almost 80 years plus, how do we do something to go out and make sure it continues to be relevant 80 years from now onwards?
हार्नेसिंग ऑफ डेटा की आपने बात की, प्रोसेस ऑटोमेशन की आपने बात की. You touched upon a third element in this overview of what HBL is doing, and that was the talent that we have, the talent that HBL has, and how it should be able to harness the first two, which is the harnessing of the data and the फ्यूचर की ऑर्गेनाइजेशन जो होगी उसमें एक ये थॉट प्रोसेस भी आता है, और ये हमेशा होता है जब भी कोई एक नई टेक्नोलॉजी का एक इन्फ्लेक्शन पॉइंट आता है, और वो तो एकदम से लोग कहते हैं शायद अब लोग की ज़रूरत ना रहे। एआई की बात हो रही है, रोबोटिक्स की बात ने भी जिक्र किया। हाउ डू सी, because at the end of the day in the financial services industry, we sell a service, we address the needs of our clients through an interaction. How do you see the back end of the organization changing, if at all? And कहीं ये तो नहीं हो सकता कि we suddenly have less and less of people because AI आ गई है। अब ये AI एक ऐसा लफ्ज़ हो गया, सब इसके बारे में बात कर रहे हैं। अभी आपने robotics, so shed some light on that aspect, on the this organization of the future.
I think it's an interesting question. It's a question that we see. Some people do say, some people don't say it, but you can see it in their eyes that there is that concern, that fear, that maybe all of this is going to take my job away. But as you also alluded, if we go back 30, 40 years ago in history when computers started to become more common,
Yep.
or later on when internet became available, you know, there was this dot-com phenomena where everything and anything under the sun was being presented on dot-com, and the world was saying, "But that's where the world will be." What has happened? Business models have changed, but then so many new business models have come up, leveraging those technologies, leveraging computer, leveraging tablets, leveraging mobile phones, smartphones. So those are evolving. Their computing capacity is increasing. With increasing computing capacity, more and more interesting solutions are being packaged, and hence people are using those as tools to go out and offer different services, products, and whatever. So humans did not become redundant. Their way of interacting with other humans, they changed. The kind of products and services that were offered 20, 30, 40 years ago, that has changed because now technology enables people to go out and create new products, new services, and whatever else. So I think the same phenomena will happen as we move forward. So while the generative AI and the robotics and harnessing of data will most likely make the worker of today, who is not really a knowledge worker and who just does some manual work, that manual work where you as an individual do not add any value or you do not bring your intelligence or intellect into making a difference, those job roles will obviously not be required because those will all be automated and digitized. But having said that, you will need to have people with different skill sets who can then understand. I mean, today, understanding what AI tools are, somebody has to write algorithms, somebody has to interpret the output of those algorithms, somebody has to figure out what is the right data, somebody has to continue to use that data to develop different scoring models and continuously analyze and look at what the data is telling them. Somebody will have to continuously figure out new technologies so that the organization is able to get more and more real-time data coming in. Somebody will have to create models to be able to analyze those data in real time and take decisions on those. Similarly, at the processing end, as the regulations evolve, as customers' needs evolve, as the products that you offer evolve, new processes will come around. The processes that you may have automated today, the process flows, those sequences will change, and somebody will need to do that robotics, programming, etc. as well. So, what I'm fundamentally saying is we may not need a very large army that would be doing just manual work, but we will still need a significantly large number of knowledge workers who will be required and expected to use modern technologies, modern tools will be far more qualified than most of us are today, and they will be there who will be running the organizations, who will be using all these tools and technologies so that they can continue to go out and create interesting products for the customers. They can engage with the customers, they can get customers' feedback and hence evolve and do whatever needs to happen. They will need to continue to respond to the regulatory changes. The regulator can change process, they can change rules, they can change requirements, they can direct to come up with new products, new solutions. So, I mean, all those things will be happening, and you will need people to implement those. So, you'll need people to execute against those. So, a long answer to your question in summary would be it is not going to eliminate the need of people, but it's certainly going to change the profile of the employee that we have in the bank. It's certainly going to change the work that an employee does today at the bank. That, the nature and the shape of all of that is certainly going to change in the next 5 to 10 years.
All right. Thank you. Abrar, thank you so much. Thank you for taking time out to be with us at the HBL Inspire podcast and the perspective that you have given on how banks are shaping up for the client of the future. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of this third edition of the HBL podcast, HBL Inspire. Our guest today was Abrar Mir, Chief Information and Transformation Officer for HBL, who talked at length about how banks are shaping up for the clients of the future and shed some interesting light on what lifestyle means. Banking is going to become a lifestyle in the future, what the role of the branches would be like, and what HBL is doing in this regard, and how workers will go from being manual workers to knowledge workers in the future. We hope you can join us next time in the next episode of the HBL Inspire podcast. Till then, take care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum.